going to be working with butternut squash. It's a fantastic fall, winter vegetable. So during these COVID times when we go shopping, we want to make sure that we touch as little as possible. So the first thing we're going to do is shop with our eyes. So what we're looking for is evenly colored butternut squash. So we want the flesh to all be the same color. These are all in pretty good shape, except you can see this one's not. And then we're looking ones that are pretty evenly oblong. They don't have a large bulb on the bottom. The larger the bulb, the more the cavity and the more seeds will be there. So we're looking for fairly evenly shaped ones like this. And then once we pick it up, as long as it's firm and not mushy and we don't see a lot of brown spots, we know that we picked a nice, good, firm butternut squash. To roast the butternut squash traditionally so that we can get the meat in order to make our butternut squash raviolis. So it's simple. You want to find like the flattest spot you can, so make it easy to cut, and then you're just going to cut it right down the middle. Obviously a sharp knife is helpful. Okay, finish it off. So we'll take the seeds out. If you remember when we went shopping, I said it was important for us to try to find a butternut squash that did not have a big bulb at the bottom. You can see why here. Look how small the cavity is. Look at all that flesh we have. There's very little seeds to take out. So we're definitely maximizing our butternut squash. What we're going to do is put a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and then roast them, cut side down. They're going to roast for about 35 to 40 minutes. And get nice and soft and tender and get that delicious caramelization on the bottom. So we can put these right on our plate. Again, grab our salt and pepper. Turn them over, and let's put them in the oven. I was thinking that we should probably add some onion and some garlic to our butternut squash and roast the last 20 minutes. It'll add some great flavor to the squash when we mash it to put inside the potatoes. So let's pull those out. Pull out a squash. So I chopped a half an onion, so let's just drop that right in between in here. And I have 4 whole cloves of garlic. We're gonna leave them whole, don't chop them, because we don't want them to burn while this is all roasting. And then we'll just put a little bit of olive oil on them. We'll put this back in the oven. We still have another 20 minutes or so those should come out perfect. Butternut squash is roasting for the filling for the pasta. Let's make some fresh pasta dough. Everybody wants to make pasta dough. Lots of people are afraid of making pasta dough. It is as simple as everyone says it is. The only problem we're going to have is this green shirt is going to be white when we're done. But it's worth it. So we have 2 cups of flour right on the counter. I'm going to make a well in the center, almost like a volcano. Okay. A little salt. I'm going to put 3 eggs. Right in the middle. And now 1 tablespoon of olive oil. That's all the ingredients. It's that simple. We're going to scramble the eggs a little bit in the middle, get them all incorporated with the oil, and then we'll slowly start adding some of the flour and incorporate it in. Now the eggs always try to escape. They never get very far, but when they do, if they break through the wall, you just push them back in, create your wall over again. That's all. Ultimately, we're going to be mixing it all together. But you can see I'm slowly incorporating the flour into the eggs and the oil. This whole process is going to take just 2 to 3 minutes. Then we'll pull it all together and knead it for about 5 minutes. And then we'll set our dough aside for 30 minutes to rest before we roll it out for our ravioli. And while that's all happening, we'll be able to finish our squash filling. Okay, so now here we are. We'll get it all in there. We'll use our dough scraper and then pull this all together. What I love about making pasta dough is that it looks like you made a mistake and then all of a sudden it's going to come together. Also, every time I make it, and I do make it once a week, I think of the first memory I actually have with my grandmother at her house in New York. I was 5 years old and I was at the kitchen table and she was teaching me how to make pasta dough. And that is definitely where my passion started. And I spent many, many weeks with my grandmother every summer having her teach me how to cook. And then my mom, she was instrumental in teaching me how to cook faster and for more people and more economically. So we're just gonna bring this all together. You can see it's all starting to come together. It doesn't take much. That's what's so interesting to me, because everybody who eats homemade pasta, fresh pasta, always talks about how it's so good. It doesn't taste anything like the kind you get in the store. It's amazing. And if you want to impress people, you make homemade pasta. You can see 4 ingredients, nice and simple. Now we're going to knead it together. Okay, our doughs come together. We'll form into a nice disc. You know that it's good when you press it down and it pops back up just like that. We're going to put it into an airtight bag for 30 minutes to rest. And while it's resting, our roasted butternut squash, onions, and garlic will be ready and we can make the filling. We're done with the filling. We will be able to roll out our ravioli dough and finish on the oven. The squash, as you can see, is nice and soft and tender. We're going to take the flesh out. So we'll scoop that right into a bowl. You can see how nice and soft it's caramelized. Oh yeah. How perfect is that? We scooped out all the flesh. Now we're going to take our roasted garlic cloves and all of those roasted onions and put them inside the filling as well. Excellent. Great. We'll move this out of the way. We can finish our filling. We have a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and then we're going to add some salt and pepper. I like a lot of pepper. I find a lot of people do, but of course you could season it to taste. So just mix that all together. You can smell the fresh ground pepper mixing with the squash. breaking up. And the onions are all mixed. So we can set this filling aside, cool off a little bit, and roll out our ravioli dough. Now, some people will use a pasta machine, but we're going to go the old-fashioned way and just roll it out. So we get into a nice, about a foot-long strip. Turn it a little more. You can see it's nice and pliable. So the goal here is to get it to be probably about 16 inches long and about 3 or 4 inches wide, so we can use it as the base for our ravioli. So it's a lot of fun rolling ravioli, but people go pay to work out. Well, you don't have to do that. Again, like I said, if you prefer to use a machine, you could use a machine. We're going to try to roll it so that it's nice and thin. We don't want our pasta to be too thick. While we're doing this, again, keeping in mind prep, the water, salted water, is boiling, so it's ready as soon as the raviolis are done for us to drop them in. And while they're cooking, we'll be able to make our sauce. The brown butter sage sauce takes maybe 5 minutes start to finish, so there's no reason to make it ahead, although you could. Again, the whole concept here is just about everything we've made today you can make ahead, including the pasta dough. It could be made a day ahead of time, wrapped in plastic, kept in the fridge. Just bring it up to room temperature before you try to roll it out. The filling can be made ahead of time. All right, we're almost there. The last couple of rolls. One more turn. Nice and thin. So you want to get it so that you can almost see through it. There we go. Now we're ready to start our filling. So we're going to take a tablespoon of filling and put them about 1 inch apart. Again, you get to decide how big the raviolis are going to be. Do you want to make mini raviolis or larger ones? There we go. So we'll take one of our sheets that we pre-stretched, put it over the top. Okay. Now you want to go right around the filling, get the air pockets out. The great part about the fresh pasta dough is that there's going to be a lot of scraps here, and you can just take the scraps and re-roll them, make more ravioli because it's so fresh. Okay, so now we can shape them. We're going to get a nice straight edge. Like I said, we could use those scraps to make some more. Again, square off the ends. And now go in between. And we could use a fork to get that traditional look. Crimp the edges, keep our filling in. And set them aside. So I showed you the larger ravioli. Now we'll make a couple of smaller ones with the next dough. I don't have a problem with the larger size raviolis. Pasta dough is so delicious. Let's take you can see with the first one we made 4 ravioli. This one we're going to make 6. Oh, maybe 5. We'll go with 5. Have our second sheet. You can see it's very thin. And we'll put it over the top. rid of the air. And we'll just cut these a little bit smaller. There we are. Now you can see the difference in size when we put them on the plate. Great thing is that no matter how big you make them, they're going to cook in the same amount of time because it's the thickness of the pasta that determines how long it's going to take. Let's get our brown butter sage sauce going. We have 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You don't want to use salt. Salt will tend to make it foam up. So while that's melting, let's put some of our ravioli into the pot. So we'll get these done at the same exact time. You don't want to overcrowd the pot. So just put in 6 minutes to get started. Our butter's melting. I'm going to let it melt completely. Then we'll add our garlic. Add our chopped garlic. We'll let that saute up a little, 30 to 60 seconds. This is one of the easiest sauces to make. We'll then add our sage. Again, another 30 seconds. And then a little salt and pepper and we're done. Raviolis floated to the top. So we're gonna just touch them with our spoon here and see how they feel. They could still use a little bit more. Tender up a little bit more. So our butter is nice and bubbly. Our garlic has been sauteing for about 60 seconds. Let's add our fresh sage. The great part about living in Southern California is this sage is right from my own herb garden, which I can grow year round. So it's fresh, delicious. Oh, the smell is great. We'll let that go for about 30 seconds. We'll add a little salt and pepper and our sauce is done. And our raviolis will be ready to come out. See the butter starting to get a little bit brown, a little golden. That's going to be the nuttiness that adds to the nuttiness inside the filling of the butternut squash. Okay. Add our brown pepper, a little bit of salt. Remember, we use unsalted butter, so we put the salt in now. See the color starting to turn. We can shut that off and take our raviolis out. So we'll plate our raviolis. So these large ones are the pasta lovers ravioli. And then we have regular size. Perfect. Add a little bit of our brown butter sage.